Good evening from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 11:03 p.m. on Wednesday, excuse me, the 17th of May, 2023. Just a quick video. As you know, or some of people close to that are close to me know, my house is a bit haunted at times. It's an old post-war cottage from, the late 40s, when people came back from the war, and they threw up these houses for returned servicemen. So it's made out of asbestos, and it's timber on, Queensland style on not so much on stilts, but it is raised. It is raised up, because in this climate, houses were always built to be raised because of flooding, and also because it's a hot subtropical climate. So they used to try and encourage airflow underneath the house, I guess, to avoid the build-up of mould and damp, and especially in the rains, when the wet, when we do get flooding, which is getting to be with monotonous regularity now, every 5 years or so. But anyway, so my house is a bit haunted, which doesn't usually bother me, because I'm both a Jew and a occultist, a spiritualist. I call myself more a universalist, because I don't have a congregation I belong to, a Jewish congregation I belong to anymore. Sort of walked away over the last few years from organised religion in Brisbane. I term myself more a universalist, as in I worship the one God as manifested in all manifestations, meaning that we are all sparks of the divine, as in human beings are all sparks of the divine, all life forms, and we all belong to the one. And as a consequence of that, I'm very spiritually inclusive and accepting of most other walks of life. I have no time in my life for bigotry or ignorance, or religious hatred espoused to anyone of different religious dogmatic views, because at the end of the day, it's all a waste of time. If you actually truly believe in oneness, then we are all expressions of the divine, some of us more so than others. Some of us are just, slobs on the bus trying to make our way home. And, some of us, some entities are still lost in their own darkness, which is not my job to fix. They do approach me sometimes at the casino and in other places. But it's not my role to fix those entities. That is up to the Holy One to deal with. But they do find their way to Mamatu from time to time, which can be a bit confronting. I got harassed by some low-level scum, dark entities, the teenage boys from Cavendish Road State High School this afternoon, that I've spoken to before about their hooning in our quiet little neighbourhood streets. So they decided they would try and intimidate me this afternoon when I was walking my dog and my bird. So I reported them, but we all know about Queensland Police's failures to protect women and their historic failure to protect me when I was under extreme violent attack for years. It was allowed to continue. So I have very little faith in Queensland state government or their henchmen, the police, but I did the right thing. I reported it because it's escalating now, and, you know, it will eventually lead to violence if it's allowed to continuously percolate like that. Because I, for one, will not be tolerating being threatened or attacked, you know, going about my business on a afternoon walk with my pets. So, not quite sure what my next step will be, but there will be consequences. So I'm very, very angry and upset that I'm being put through this rigmarole again. But it's just life. It's just life in Queensland. Queensland is meant to be the sunshine state. It's the seedy, woman-hating state, and they're fostering it in the children now. It's disgusting is what it is. But we have to bear in mind that they've all been jabberooed out of their skulls, so we're probably not dealing with, you know, your normal, fully cognitively sound former pure blood human, are we? I don't know quite what we're dealing with now, but the lack of protection for women and children has been going on for decades. Long time before COVID came along. So now it will only escalate exponentially because no one will take responsibility for their actions. And basically when COVID came along, the entire state was encouraged to abdicate their sovereignty and their right to protect their own body, mind and spirit in favour of this, including Queensland Police. So I doubt that I'll get any support from them because they're all cognitively impaired by Mother Hydra's babies probably. I fully expect that to get no support because, yeah, the cognitive dissonance and the cognitive impairment is becoming more and more prevalent, and I'm seeing it more and more on a daily basis. And I'm being othered more and more on a daily basis because I'm not quite sure why. The lady that I have attend to her coffee shop, she knows that I'm unvaxxed. So she was whispering behind my back when I had coffee there the other day. So I'll have to rethink whether I continue to support her business because that's just savage, you know. I actually advised her to not get injected. She asked me for my advice and I said, your body, your choice, but if I were you, I wouldn't do it. And she went ahead and did it anyway and now has regrets and is now vicious towards me because I held my ground. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be vilified for holding my own ground and standing by my own body and spirit. If you didn't have the courage of your convictions and the guts or the glory to protect your body and mind and spirit, don't be lashing out at me. You should be angry with yourself for failing your own self. So anyway, I'm thoroughly disgusted with that woman because she's been I've observed her to be blatantly hostile yesterday when I had the coffee. So it's alarming. It's alarming. And then today's incident with those teenage boys from Cav Road State High School is also alarming. But a woman a few houses down the road that witnessed it said that they've been hooning for a week now, which, to be fair, I was unaware of because it's the first time, you know, that I've had a confrontation with them, those boys, for about 6 months. So anyway, I reported it. Nothing will be done, but, you know, I've covered that base at least. So why am I making this video? As you know, my business name, well, it's not really a business because I haven't sold anything yet. At the moment, I've been making a few lovely things and giving them away as gifts. So I gave a lovely gift to my friend Lynn of a Yoda pendant and another lovely gift of a moonstone and spoon handle, Levi and Salomon spoon handle to my friend Jared, who was I gave it to him yesterday and he was thrilled with it and loved it. And I've got one pendant left to give to my daughter Crystal. And then I also gave a spoon ring to my homeless friend Katrina 2 weeks ago. So I've been, making things and gradually letting them go and putting them out, to people, gifting to people. But I haven't sold any jewellery, so my business name is in theory only, still hasn't really started to fly yet. But as I said in my debrief to my psychiatrist, which was prior to these boys, earning and threatening me, I'd just come home from my debrief with him. But as I said to my psychiatrist this afternoon, bad times always pass. So I'll keep making jewellery and keep, stockpiling it, I guess. What I don't give away as gifts, I'll keep building up stock, and hopefully when this nightmare ends, officially COVID is supposed to have ended, right? Well, the COVID has ended, but the fallout from it will take quite some time. I suspect probably another 2 to 3 years before the fallout from it will completely settle down. But then we're going to have, the breakdown of society, like we're seeing with the kids down the road, the acting out, the adverse reactions and the excess deaths, aren't we? So it's grim. It's a grim outcome, and it's a grave concern. I'm also gravely concerned about the negativity I'm seeing on various podcasts that I'm watching. One's called something Next Life Soul or Next Something Soul, and the host seems to be a lovely man, but I watched a video today which was actually from 5 months ago. Some Israeli dude who claims to be a walk-in said he was in a terrible car crash but didn't die. Well, he did die briefly, but was returned to his body completely unharmed as a walk-in. Now, walk-ins allegedly do exist, and they are soul contracts when you literally swap over bodies. So that part he was accurate, but he had to go and ruin it towards the end by all these doom and gloom scenarios, which he didn't actually spell out, but just sort of hinted at nefariously, like, maybe it could be I'll give you an example. He was trying to talk in the abstract, and I find that so cowardly and base. Fear-mongering, but with some, globulous, unknown thing, right? Just to put it out there, this darkness. So yeah, he's a walk-in, all right. He's a fucking wanker. I'm disgusted. Threatening us with, maybe, he says, a global nuclear holocaust. Another member of my former flock, another Jew, like the Eliezer Yudkowsky entity, creature. I mean, they're not even human, are they? I'm not talking about being Jewish. I'm talking about, because there's a lot of people doing it, not just Jewish people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not self-hating anti-Semite, but there's this trend of Jewish scientists fear-mongering. I want to know what they're getting paid to do that, to put this invidious, filthy, septic horror into the global population, into the hive mind of humanity, feeding us with horror and negativity and fear and despair instead of hope. I find it disgusting. I find it reprehensible. I find it dangerous. I find it toxic. I find it evil. Eliezer Yudkowsky and this creature, what was his name? He was definitely a young Israeli man. And so he may be telling the truth that he was in a car accident and died and was returned to his body, but he didn't come back. Oh, I help people by giving them encouragement and giving them hope, and then turns around and says, oh, but we're all going to die, so it's some horrible Holocaust, so the next few years are very grim indeed, so you're going to need your spirituality more than ever. Like, what a crock of shit. I'm not saying that the end of the world scenario isn't going to happen, because we're already living in very dark, frightening times. You don't need a research degree or a rocket science degree to work that out. But again, another one, peddling death and destruction and horror, and then go, oh, there is no death. Well, there is no death, no, because we are eternal spirits having a physical experience, and when we leave this body, it's like shucking off a husk and you just take on another body, right? A light body, or you get put back into a physical body again. We are constantly recycled. But this reprehensible, evil, toxic shit, telling everyone, oh, there is no hope and you're all going to die, so live your purpose and be in service and blah, blah, blah. Well, they're all very well. That's all well and good, living in purpose, living on purpose and living your purpose and being in service is all well and good. But I don't personally believe that the end of the world is nigh and it's all over, Red Rover. I've been listening to that theme song since I was 3 or 4 years old, watching homeless men wearing big sandwich banners over their back and front, literally being preachers going, the end of the world is nigh. And, it's kind of funny now because I'm 58 years old, so that's a lot of the world's coming to an end, the world's coming to an end. Well, the world came to an end for me when I was 6 years old, and yet I'm still alive. I'm a 58-year-old woman now. Never, ever give up on the power of the human spirit and its resilience and its mana, its strength, its ability to overcome. And God forbid, God's forfend, if the world does get any more worse, hijacked, or, as Eliezer Yudkowsky claims, another creep, in my opinion, that the end of the world is nigh because AI is going to destroy us all. In that scenario, well, we'll all be bending over and kissing our tuchuses goodbye, won't we? But I don't believe that for one moment. I don't believe that negative scenario is actually going to happen. But it's just conveniently trotted out now on the tail end of COVID and the war in the Ukraine and the war in Yemen and all the other wars going on in the world right now, as if people aren't suffering enough, as if there isn't enough loss of life, as if there isn't enough horror. Instead of preaching, positivity and potentialities and putting the skids on this dark death scenario, they're feeding into it like vultures. And I find that disgusting and reprehensible and evil. Now, on another note, why I started making this video. As you know, as I said earlier, my business name is named Titania's Realm as a tongue-in-cheek play on words, because my name is Tanya, which is diminutive of Tatiana in Russian or Titania in English. And Titania, or Tatiana, was the queen of the forest fairies, but in Greek mythology she was actually a Titan, which was a kind of a superhuman race that pre-existed humans. that were known to the Olympian gods. Apparently the Titans got driven down into the Greek mythology equivalent of hell, which is apparently, according to mythology, 7 echelons down under our planet. So the Titans were indeed a powerful race of beings. They weren't fae, they weren't fairies, I don't believe, but they would have been, in some ways, had some kind of connection to, the other world, the other dimensional entities. So anyway, I named my business that because it was my business. The idea to start my business was inspired by the fairy realm. So I wanted to incorporate that and give them honour, because without their encouragement and guidance and without them being literally my muses, number one, I probably wouldn't be alive today, and number two, I wouldn't be on the silversmithing journey that they, the spirits and the fae, put me on back in January 2021, when I was full of despair about how I was going to survive the COVID epoch, because I actually didn't think it was survivable. The fear-mongering that was going on then was all, oh, you're going to die because you're not vaxxed, and we're going to kick you out of your house. That was threatened by Anastasia Palaszczuk on the news, by the way. We're going to kick all of the disabled people and the pensioners and all the people in Housing Commission out of their houses if they don't accept the jab, right? Shades of Nazi Germany right there and then. And that's when I thought, these people were doing this deliberately to murder us. Because who were the first people that got killed in Nazi Germany? The vulnerable, the intellectually handicapped, the sick and the infirm, and those that were unable or had no family support, and were poor and disenfranchised. They went long before the final solution with the Jewish people began in, really 1939. Hitler had already killed off from the 1933 onwards the vulnerable and the marginalised. And then he turned it into a complete machine with the gas with the gas ovens in Auschwitz and other camps. He weaponised it and technocratised it to he was killing millions a day, thousands and millions a day across Europe, and in the last few years of the war it was heinous what went on. And then we have Palaszczuk saying the same thing, right? I'm going to drive you out of your homes if you don't do what I say. Monstrous it was, utterly monstrous. And, I made comments at that time on social media that it was completely evil, which it is. No one has the right to take away someone else's body autonomy under any and every circumstance. No one has that right. So I fought the last 3 years really for human rights, and I have been vindicated and validated. If you watch the COVID summit, the third COVID summit in the EU on the 3rd of May 2023, you will understand why I have been validated and vindicated on my views that we're not once a conspiracy theory, but based on I have seen this pattern done before in another century, because my family were survivors of that regime. My mother in Germany with the Nazi regime, and my stepfather, the pedophile that he was, a survivor of Mittelbaldora. So when COVID came along and they started their propaganda machinery, you know, hammerjacking at us via the media and via every vector of society, like a contagion worse than actual COVID, I knew this was a deliberate campaign to depopulate planet Earth. It's got nothing to do with COVID. COVID was just the weapon they used. It's disgusting and it's evil. But anyway, as I said to you, I have a commitment to the gods and the fairy realms because they sustained my body, mind and spirit through darker times than these, much darker times, when I was threatened on a daily basis with my young children in Loganlea, which I reminded Queensland Police of that in my report today, that I have already survived those kind of high-level stressors and threats, which is why I subsist on a disability pension, because of their malfeasance and failures to protect me and my children for a period of 18 months. It was disgusting. And 52 women have already died this year at the hands of their partners, some of them at the hands of their own sons or brothers. So 52 women have been slaughtered for no good reason other than, or the general insanity that is seeping out of control when people go mad when they can't contain the stressors. They take it out on innocent women and children and their pets. By the way, their pets do suffer immensely too. So when I was threatened today, when I'm out walking with my pets, no. The buck stops with me. You've started with the wrong woman here. I've suffered enough. I've lost a lot. I lost homes and businesses and the love of one of my daughters because of the trauma inflicted upon us by men. So don't be thinking you're going to send your teenage boys after me to start the same shit, because there will be anarchy and chaos of a Bodician type contortions and proportions, because I'm done being threatened in my home here, or any home I choose to live in the state of Queensland or in the federal state of Australia. How dare you? How dare you? So, on the next note, we're talking about the fairies and my house being haunted. Yesterday, my friend Jared arrived to visit me. I haven't seen him for quite some time. So my little dog Beauregard and I were terribly excited about seeing him. So whatever energies are around this house, and I'm thinking that was a fairy spirit. On my wall here, you probably can't quite see them because it's dark in here at the moment, are lovely prints of paintings that my friend Jared made of fairies, Fairy King and Fairy Queen. And then he made me a lovely, I'll get it down to show you because I just think it's lovely. Actually, I'll put the light on so you can see what I'm talking about. So here is the Fairy Queen. He's done a whole series of them. So Queen Serena, which the voodoo goddess equivalent would be La Sirene. She's actually a mermaid type goddess, but this is La Sirena, and that's why she's all watery. Jared tells me that he actually saw these entities as visions, and that's why he painted them. He's a brilliant artist. And the other one he painted, and there's a series of male fairies too, is King Eric. So this is King Eric. He's a very handsome fairy king. And for my birthday, which he brought it to me yesterday because he printed it out, he made the most beautiful get it in the light fairy paintings, and he turned it into a birthday card for me. Isn't that gorgeous? So the delightful thing, this one my daughter gave me for my birthday, it's a print of a painting of Gustav Klimt. So I'll turn the light off again, climb back into my little bed. So what's the point? Why am I showing you this? Yesterday my friend Jared arrived, brought me that lovely card for my birthday. And and Bobo was so excited, he was squealing with delight. Ooh, you know, he loves his Uncle Jared. Uncle Jared is a member of my family. He's been a family friend for 32 years. 33 years, because now wait a minute, what year is it now? 2023. I met him in 1992. So it's 31 years, my apologies. The years are marching on and I get a bit muddled as I get older, but yes, it's over 30 years we've been friends. And he's like a brother to me, like an adopted brother. He's always been there for me through thick and through thin, and unfortunately there was a lot of very thin, terrorised, awful times. And there were 3 years in my life when I was living in Loganlea when he wasn't in my life. And I was so completely, utterly, deeply traumatised and threatened on a daily basis that eventually I did contact him and beg him to be my friend again, because I said I just needed that level of support of someone decent and kind and noble that I knew wasn't out to hurt me really, and we just, it was just one of those things. Anyway, we've been friends ever since. So my beautiful friend Jared made me these beautiful prints of his beautiful artworks, which I wish people would support and buy, because he's a brilliant artist. They're beautifully painted and they're just delightful. So here's the interesting thing. So he arrives and we're all in a heightened, excited state. Even my bird Charlie was happy to see her Uncle Jared, And I led him into my studio, which is the third bedroom, where I work on my jewellery. I have my jeweller's desk there and all my jewellery things set up there. And I wanted to show him, first of all, I wanted to give him the pendant that I made for him, which he was thrilled with. And then I led him into that room to show him the opals that I bought recently that I'm now polishing up, which is a lot of work because they're only tiny little opals. They're not worth much. I paid $75 for the whole parcel and they were little chips. So when I saw how tiny they were, I was a little bit annoyed with myself, because I would have preferred to save up the money and buy one good opal to work on rather than have lots of little chippy things lying around. But it doesn't matter because it's practice. And, there's a few cute little pieces in amongst that parcel. So I might maybe I'll be lucky to get half a dozen little stones that will polish up quite nicely, and I can make into a little decoration on a ring or something. I'll find a use for them. But it's a lot of work. Anyway, but I wanted to show Jared they're White Creek, so they're milky white opals from a place called White Creek. So, I showed him and he was quite interested to have a look. And while we were in there admiring the opals and Charlie was twittering away, Beauregard had his ball in my bedroom and he was yipping and yipping and yelping and wanting me to get the ball, because what he does to steal attention is he shoves the ball under the wardrobe or under a cupboard that he can't get it out from, and then it's yelping and squawking and barking until I, get the ball out, which is a pain in the ass. But anyway, so he was doing this. I call it the fence game because he usually plays it by pushing the ball under the front fence and then barking till I go and get it. So I knew what he was doing. I'm talking to Jared and he's stealing attention because he's a dog and, it's innocent enough. So, and we were in the bedroom, which is like just down the hall there. It's not that far away. But we both could hear him barking and barking and barking. And then there was a pause. And in that pause, we then heard a man's voice. Didn't sound like an older man. It sounded like a man about the age of King Eric, actually. A fairly youngish voice, like someone in their early 30s, yell out, "Hey! Hey!" as if to say, stop that, So Bobo stops for a brief moment after the male voice said, "Hey," and then he resumed barking. But anyway, I got a bit of a fright because I looked at Jared, I thought, there's a man in my bedroom. What, So I came running out. I looked from that doorway into my door because I could see there was no one here. So I ran outside thinking, oh, well, it's someone outside I've heard call out. I thought maybe it's just a case of, I've heard the sound coming from the wrong direction and I've mistaken it. But it definitely sounded like it came from my bedroom. So Jared walks into my room and he's watching Beauregard, and I went running out the back looking for who might have walked past and called out, "Hey." No one was there. No one. So then I knew. I thought, oh, you're in denial, Tanya. It definitely was in the bedroom. So I come back in, I walk into the bedroom. Bobo's still, frantic for his ball. Jared said, the sound definitely came from your bedroom, Tanya. And I said, yes, I know. But I said, I just wanted to run outside and make sure that it wasn't someone walking past and that I've mistaken the sound from the direction of the sound. Jared said, no, I heard it too. It came from the bedroom. Anyway, I had to get a stick and wedge the stick under my wardrobe to get the ball out, to give Bobo his ball, so there was peace at last. And we never did find out who made that hey noise, whether it was fairy or another kind of spirit. We really don't know. But Jared said to me, he said it was very interesting. I said, why? He said, well, as I was driving I've got a broken nail. God almighty. When you scratch your hair, it gets caught in your hair. He said, as I was driving over to your place, he said, I was behind a car with a number plate that said IMP, I-M-P, IMP. And I looked at him, I said, they're doing the Ouija board, number plate Ouija board again, which happened when my dad died. Where I went, I was seeing, Dad, 89, and it freaked me out because my dad died 3 days short of his 89th birthday. And there was another number plate when I was delivering his ashes, driving his ashes over to put him in the sea at Wellington Point, that said go. And that was freaky because I was running late and I was going, I'm running late, I'm meeting Jared, I don't want to run late. And then I was behind this number plate that said go, and I was like, oh, that's weird. So anyway, the spirits do this from time to time, and it's a bit weird, but they do communicate that way with us. So So he said, yeah, I saw that. He thought, oh, imp. He said, oh, it's a mischievous fairy, right? Anyway, and then that happened in my house with the dog, something yelling hey at him for barking, you know. So then I was feeling a bit unsettled because I said to Joe, well, I've got to sleep in this room and I've got the fairies on the wall and then I've got some entity calling out to the dog. I said, I feel a bit, unsettled. But, there's been nothing so much happened after that, settled down. And then tonight I went out to hang out the washing because my friend Lynn came today and brought me lots and lots of clothes, lovely clothes that her neighbour gave her to give to me. So there's about, 3 baskets full of clothes. But I want to wash it all because my darling Lynn puts everything in mothballs and the smell of mothballs makes me violently ill. And I actually can't wear the clothes if it smells of mothballs. So I'm frantically washing them, hoping to get the smell out, because last time there was a lovely blouse that Annette gave me. I had to give it away. I couldn't get the smell out, and every time I put that blouse on, even though it was a lovely blouse, I started feeling nauseous and my throat would close up, and I don't like mothballs. So anyway, so I've been out there tonight frantically washing. I've done 4 loads of washing. So many clothes I was given. And I am grateful for the clothing, it's a big help. But I'm frantically washing it all. Anyway, the third time I went out to do the washing, the third load, I actually washed a lovely shawl that Annette had given me and my own cardigan. So I was hanging out the shawl and my cardigan in the night air and the cold. I had slippers on though. I'm just wearing this t-shirt nightie, bare legs but slippers on. And I heard the sound of some like clothing being pushed off a bed. You know how when you have a pile of washing and it gets pushed off and you hear this sliding kind of sound? I heard it from outside and I just freaked out for a brief moment because I'm thinking, well, that's not right, because all the washing, all the clothing is in the laundry, but it's already on the floor. So there's nothing for it to fall off to make that sliding whooshing sound. So I just stood there for a brief moment. Bobo went running to the front barking at, I don't know what he was barking at, probably a possum or something. And I thought, oh, well, there you go. I'm getting this kind of manifestations of where they're letting me know that they're in the house while I'm outside, right? So I wasn't real happy about that. But anyway, I came back and I couldn't see anything had fallen off the couch, the bench seats in the lounge, because it sounded like either a cushion being pushed off or, washing being pushed off. Couldn't see anything had fallen down, but I definitely heard the sound of something being, like material, fabric type things being pushed off a bed or off a chair. So I thought, well, that's weird. But came in, couldn't find what could have made that noise, so I decided to ignore it. And I've come to bed and I'm just lying here thinking, well, my house is fully active at the moment, fully haunted. It's been quiet for a while, but when I get visitors, which is very rare, like Lynn comes once a week on average, usually once a week, but it's very rare now that Jared or my daughter visit. They only come occasionally. And so I find it very interesting that, the spirits really, I don't know whether they acted out or got activated because the dog and the bird and I were excited and they were feeding off our excitement. But yeah, it was very, very intense. It's almost as though, because we got excited in the fairies that live on my sacred space here at Titania's realm, in my garden, they're not meant to be inside the house actually, like they have their own area outside the house. But then the other funny thing was this morning when I woke up, I went over to King Eric, the picture of King Eric, who was also seen in a vision. That's why Jared painted him. And I actually kind of said to him, oh, well, I said, you've got your own little house now. I've put it above your head. I said, you've got a lovely little house to go to. You don't need to be haunting mine. And the answer came back in my mind's, in, I don't know whether it was my imagination. It was almost like he answered me. And very dryly he said, as if fairy royalty would live in such a house fit only for peasant fairies. And I got I just kind of got a shock. And I was like, excuse me, it's a beautiful house and any fairy would be happy and grateful to have such a beautiful house. And I love it, and I actually want it made into a T-shirt, printed on a T-shirt. And then King Eric just kind of looked at me as to say, but we're royalty and we have better houses than that. Anyway, I didn't want to ring up Jared and tell that because I didn't want him to think that it was me saying that his house that he painted for the fairies isn't good enough. Because of course it's beautiful. It should be made into children's books. It's just beautiful paintings, So anyway, I had to chuckle to myself that I have an opulent king and queen fairies on my room, on my walls, who King Eric tells me, the fairy tale looking fairy house birthday card that Jared presented me with is not fit for royalty. I thought, you bloody snob, how dare you? So anyway, I had to laugh. And I told Lynn about it, and Lynn said, don't tell Jared because I bet you anything he already knows that that's like folk fairy and that he'll come up with some beautiful painting of some amazing palace and then say to you, oh, that's actually King Eric and Queen Serene's actual palace. I was like, yeah, you probably will too. But you know what? I still love that painting of that little fairy house. I think it's delightful. He's got a whole series of them. And I just think they're beautiful. Absolutely stunning work. And I love them. And they are not only good enough for me, but they're just fabulous, darling. I'd be proud to live in a house like that with the cute little mushrooms at the front door. It's just delightful. So there you have it. King Eric Fairy can be as snobby as he likes, but I don't mind living in a peasant house. I live in a peasant house as it is. Look, I live in Housing Commission in a post-war cottage that is full of asbestos and badly needs painting and crumbling. Literally, the stumps underneath are crumbling. And what can I do? I don't have money to upgrade my lifestyle and buy myself a more opulent modern home. So I just stay here until whatever happens, the end of the world or until I get old and die, whichever comes first. Oh my goodness. All this horror and ghastliness when really we should be like the fairies in their dimension and the eternal summerlands, dancing and being carefree and joyful and loving and seeding hope into humanity's consciousness instead of this awful doom and gloom scenarios of we're all going to die. Well, we're all going to die, but not today. Like, calm your farm, idiots. Oh, here's another thing I want to show you. Here he is. Jared's, my friend Jared He's such a talented, oh, pardon me. He's such a talented man. He also is making these beautiful cards, prints of cards, or he's going to turn them into greeting cards, he thinks. But he made this one for me, and he is the AI representation of the voodoo god Papa Legba. So I gave a print to, he gave me 2 copies, so I gave the other copy to my friend Lynn today, along with some 2 prints of a fairy that she loved, that we chose for her because it looks a lot like her daughter, and she says it looks like her mum. But she was thrilled that to receive a copy of Papa Legba as well. So, there you go. The masculine energy in my bedroom might not just be the fairy. It could be Papa Legba himself telling the dog, hey. Anyway, he's a benevolent, loving God, and he's been invoked for my protection. And the gods know we're living in a world where the humans are either dead or dead in their souls, or have gone completely insane and inverted and perverted more than ever before. And so I'm preferring to live very quietly in my little house with my gods, my angels, and the fairy realm. I'm quite content with that. I have peace with that. I've had enough horror in my life from fellow human beings, including my family of origin, progenitors, and their filthy boyfriends and partners. And so I'm quite content to live my life out quietly here with my my unseen entities, that every now and then make themselves known by yelling out and verbalizing their presence, which was a bit astonishing, a little bit confronting, to be honest. They're usually silent partners, except when they send me messages and meditations and trance drumming and things like that, Anyway, I said to my psychiatrist today, I said, why was little old me given all that information about the COVID paradigm from the very beginning? The spirits told me, they said, don't buy into the bullshit. Don't accept this. Don't be led by fear. Be brave, be courageous, hold your ground. And they were constantly, every time I started to go spiral under with the fair, because it was a mass propagandised fair program that went on for the last 4 years. Every time I started to think, maybe I should just go with what everyone else is doing and accept that vaccine, the COVID vaccine, the spirits would be like, don't you dare. We've worked too hard to keep you alive and to gift you a second and a third and a fourth chance at life. Do not dare to cede your body, mind and spirit over to anything human, any human construct. Let us decide what is the best thing for you, Tanya Aarons. And they did. And when I said I didn't know how I was going to put food on my table and continue to live, and that I wanted to thrive, because I was and am deeply frightened for my future, not just because of the globalist depopulation agenda, fear-mongering that's going on, but because, frankly, if I lose my pension for any reason, I can't survive. I'm 58, I don't have good health. How would I feed myself? Literally feed myself. And, when there were food shortages during the height of COVID in 2021, 2022, it was getting quite frightening. My angels constantly said to me, don't worry, there will always be enough for you, Tanya. We will always see to it that you have enough. And they did, using my earth angel friends who are generous and much beloved and loving and caring. And did I mention generous? Clothing and food is always brought to me, no matter what, under any and all circumstances. So I am very grateful to, my friend Sally and my friend Lynn and other people throughout the years, throughout the decades, who have always ensured that I am safe insofar as there is always food on my table and clothes on my back. But the external horror beyond our control, the depopulation and the terror campaign and the mainstream media campaigning is beyond our control, unfortunately. And, all we can do is stick together and pray to our gods of our understanding and honour our ancestors across all paradigms and keep the faith and keep hope. It's all we literally can do. But I have great faith. As I said to my psychiatrist, I said I was spirit-led and guided in these dark times. And I said, why was I chosen from all the people on earth to fight on social media the way I have fought for the last 3 years? And prior to that, I was fighting on the subject of child sexual abuse and domestic violence. Why was I put through all that, when I should have just been relaxing and enjoying life and healing myself? I fought for humanity in my own small, unique way. And he said to me, and it was a really loving way he said it, he said, because you, Tanya, no matter what, are all about truth. And he said, you spoke the truth through this whole COVID epoch. You maintained your truth quite courageously, which I did. So yes, we will continue to have our truth, even though it comes sometimes at great personal expense. And even though I have a lot of enemies, people who deem me crazy because I'm attuned to the multiverses and I'm gifted by the gods. And those gifts often came at very great sacrifice and were hard won. Like the sacrifice of my innocence as a little girl at 6 years of age. And in recent years, losing 3 cats in 3 years, up until the last one died in 2021, my beautiful socks. That was a harrowing time too. So the sacrifices and the horror and the grief, the long, decade-long grief, over 9 years now, of unrequited love that I had with the last lover. That too was a sacrifice that I had to grow into my own body, mind and spirit and find the love deep inside myself to turn it into a worthwhile pursuit, which was to create beautiful jewellery and things of artworks around my house, like my decoupage cases and my little bookshelf in the front room. And I painted with Sock's little face on and Beauregard's face on the other side of it. And all my other, making boxes out of cutlery canteens to display my jewellery. I kept myself very busy through the last 3 years of the COVID epoch. Very busy indeed. I created and I'm now making lovely jewellery, things that I never thought that I would ever be able to make. I am becoming the best version of myself, even amidst the horror and the bathos and the pathos and the trauma and the fear-mongering. I'm creating life, beauty and beautiful things, and I'm very proud of that. And that too was guided and inspired by the fairy realms and by my ancestors that love me. And I'm talking about not my primordial, my original family who were rotten and evil and incestuous, but by my ancestors that, however generations back they go. I had a lot of connection to my Scottish ancestors 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, 5 years ago, popping up, wandering through. Literally one appeared beside my bed as a spirit and gave me a bit of a fright actually that night. So those ancestors, those ancient ones are working with me, my spirit, ensuring my continued vigour, what's left of it, health, what's left of it, and safety, as much safety as we can cobble together in a world gone completely mad. And those ancient ones, will not leave me, and they will never let me down, unlike the humans that I put way too much love and trust and put way too much energy into. It wasn't good for me. It depleted me and almost led to my death. So the ancient ones stepped in after that event in 2015, and by the gods, no one dare trifles with them now, and I will never ever doubt them again. When I call upon them for protection or for assistance to help me thrive, when I called upon them, pray to God and all manifestations to help me find a way to keep myself, occupied and busy, and to be creative and hopefully turn it into a business one day. The silversmithing happened, and as I said to my psychiatrist today, I said, "Doctor, all bad times must eventually pass, and the good times will come again, hopefully in the next few years, and hopefully I will have attained and obtained enough skills with the silversmithing that I will eventually be able to be financially independent, have my own little business going, and hopefully get off that pension so I'm not at the behest and the mercy of the evil, perverted Queensland government, who I can't trust, really. After the COVID paradigm, we saw how untrustworthy and how disgusting they are. So there is that. Anyway, I'm going to go to sleep now. So good night from Tanya Aarons and Beauregard and whichever spirits of love, light and truth are present in my home and my garden at the current moment in time. And we bid you good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are in the space-time continuum on planet Earth at this point in time. And I bid you a wonderful day, and I bid you to fill your cups up with hope and optimism and mojo, mana, power, your own inner life force, your chi. Be strong, be brave, be fully vigorous, blooming, blossoming, wild, free humans. And those of you who are a little bit superhuman and are assisted by your angels and your gods and your fae folk, I bid you good evening, good morning and good night also. Stay faithful to all that is, was and ever shall be in all manifestations, because that's one thing I agree with that Israeli person that was so negative at the end of his interview. We do need to honour our spirituality and be at one, in oneness, in full cooperation, collaboration with the ancestors that love us and our gods and our angels and our fae, because we are all walking this world now. The dimensions were interfered with or broken apart, I believe, began back with the nuclear blasts in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, burst into the dimensions. And let us not forget the Hadron Particle Collider in Bern, Switzerland, I think it is, has definitely interfered with the dimensions. So now the fairy realm that used to be vague fairy stories we used to read to our children for entertainment are now moving on the same dimension as ours, bleeping in and out of our consciousness. And, they're very, very real. But, there is a cosmic war that is happening because we humans have broken into the fabric of the multiverse, and there will be consequences, which is why we need every bit of help we can get. All souls that are honourable and decent and at their core good need to align with other souls that are also honourable, decent and good, and fight for our planet Earth so we can maintain this 3D reality in this dimension and live in harmony with all who are either unwillingly or unwittingly drawn into our 3D reality. We need to live in peace and harmony and deep honour and deep respect for not just our own souls, but all other souls that are interdependent, codependent and dependent on us to maintain our beautiful sacred space, the most sacred space of them all, because we live on it, planet Earth. So on that note, good night from us. Much love to and from the multiverses. Take courage, have no fear, and never ever let the bastards grind you down, including those that profit by feeding your body, mind and soul with toxic, evil, debasement, devoid of hope. There's always, always hope in any scenario, even the most grim. Always remember, after every storm, there is always a beautiful, peaceful, sunshiny existence. Good night, my beloveds. Bye for now.